Yesterday we had part 1 of this discussion. Today we have part 2 with the drone pilots at our pre-game event in Austin held on Investor Day. We got the greats here. We've got Joe Tegtmeyer, we've got Bryan Roschetzky, we've got Brad Sloan, the guys in the air covering it and making all the magic happen so we can see what's really going on. This is part 2. I had to break it in half because the edit was killing me. It was so much work, and it's worth it. It's totally worth it. So here goes part 2, and I should also mention, of course, I'm Bryan. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend.
What has been your favorite drone moment that you've captured?
Did you get CyberTruck? Did you get CyberTruck driving, or was that Jeff?
Jeff actually inadvertently caught the CyberTruck driving down in the it's actually the Stampede 2. He didn't realize it at the time, but I don't know. I caught a lot of the very early Model Ys that were showing up. Some were on the west side, some going into the paint shop, some on the east side.
Did you go out there in the winter storm? I got Giga, Texas covered in snow on the day he's talking about, when I went out and snowboarded. I flew the drone around as well and just have a whole scene of, what isn't very interesting, a dead landscape. And what was interesting was there was a few people still going out there, even on a day where the power was out and nothing was going on. There was like a few people out in Giga, Texas driving around, working. And
that was actually pretty classic. You caught that because the odds of ever seeing something like that here at Giga, Texas again is very low.
Yeah, and Jeff caught like another day that I didn't go in with icicles and snow and whatnot. So what about you, Brad?
Probably not at Gigafactory, Texas, but the railyard 25 miles north of the Gigafactory. I also shoot about once a month the new Samsung chip plant that's being constructed near Taylor, Texas. And the railyard is about a mile, maybe a mile and a half, maybe less than that, from the plant. And I just happened to stop off and shoot it too, the railyard. And there were cars down there, and since I'm only looking at a phone, I didn't really think about it too much until I posted my video, and somebody said, those are Teslas in that parking lot. So the next day I raced out there and shot them loading up the Teslas onto rail cars. And until I got found out by the owner.
There was the day with the Christmas tree, the celebration. That was great.
The topping ceremony?
The topping ceremonies,
yeah.
And everyone signed the I-beam. And I remember I had one shot where you tried to get as close as I could and zoom in and, even really just try to get every one of those signatures in the video. And that was the point when I started to realize that the employees really love this.
Yeah. Does everybody know what a topping ceremony is for construction? Does anybody not know or want to know? Okay, so we covered that one.
We got one.
It's basically the final steel beam or part of the structure, and all the people working on it sign it, and they put a tree on top because that's for good luck, and it goes back for a long time in construction.
Do we have any questions from the audience for our drone experts here?
Much input from the employees, like telling you, hey, coming up tomorrow, you might want to catch this, or just explaining things to you.
So the question is, does Joe get a lot of input or maybe tips from the employees?
The answer to that is yes. The earlier days, I got a lot more of that than now, but it does still happen. But I try to get the information and then try to present it in a way that doesn't get them in trouble. The early days, the first year and a half or 2 years, everything was about the construction of the factory, and that wasn't. I mean, it's important, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But the last year has been the production of stuff, and that becomes something more protected, I guess, by Tesla. And I'm aware of that, so I tried my best to not get them in trouble, but also present what I can in a way that is good for both parties, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit of the people that work at that factory are well aware of the videos and what's going on, and I think most of them think it's pretty cool, especially if they see themselves doing something.
Yeah, I saw a comment on somebody's video that somebody in plastics was upset that they hadn't been covered yet.
Yeah.
The question is would any of us be interested in covering the Mexico factory? I think it'd be cool, but it's a great opportunity for somebody else.
You're closer.
I was gonna say I'll go with you on a road trip.
Right. Well, you know, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but at the border, there's actually a special lane called TSLA lane to help expedite the traffic between the borders. So maybe that would be an easy way to get in there.
Hasn't that been there for a while?
A little bit, yeah.
And the charging stations on the highway getting to Monterey at least.
Do you know how far? It's Nuevo Leon, right? Do you know how far that is from here?
I think the proposed construction site is about 6 hours or so from here.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, it's not that far from
Who's
the border.
in?
Maybe. I mean, it'd be
To
a
be
good trip
continued.
down, on the way down through Boca Chica and
Yeah.
then continue on.
Kill two birds with one stone. Let's do it.
Yeah. There's one thing I want to, that it's sort of something that, and it doesn't bug me, but it comes up all the time, is the difference between a casting machine and a stamping machine. Does everybody understand what the difference is? Well, the reason why I bring that up is I think in the news, everybody hears about the Giga press or the casting machine. So therefore, everybody assumes that every piece of equipment that I show is a Giga press. And that is not true. And as much as important as the Giga press is at making the castings that are part of the structure of the Model Y and also the new one for the CyberTruck, and as there's a lot of interest in that, which is very warranted, there's other significant equipment called stamping machines that are just as important as making the vehicle and make the casting machines look very small, and those are being done on the south end of the building. And in the stamping 2, the section that they're continuing to build in right now, they're putting in these gigantic, we're talking like block long structures to make the exterior shell of the CyberTruck. And whenever I mention that, people keep thinking it's casting machines, but it's not. But the funny thing is that the work that is going on down there is very important to the completion and the production of the CyberTruck. And I try to keep showing that as much as I can, and I don't think people understand why I keep showing that it's so important to that portion of the factory to get done. Because on the northeast corner where they're putting in the casting machine structure, the casting machine, that 9,000 ton, that structure is already completed. They're already assembling the machine. They're getting close to where we may see some test castings. But they can't build the CyberTruck without the stamping machines, and that's the part that's taking the longest. And I hope that helps put into context why I keep showing what's going on at the south end.
Well, my understanding is that you can't stamp that metal. Don't they have to bend it and laser cut it?
The answer is yes, into certain degrees and certain things that they're making. So they have some of the stamping machines that will stamp out parts, and they also have other machines, and I can't remember the names of them, but they also do folding as well. And that's all being installed in that south part.
Now the stamping would be, for example, like a door. It's not a huge thing.
Right, it could be a door structure or a side beam structure. If you think of stampings as when you look at a vehicle, it's the things that you see. If you look at the castings, it's the stuff underneath that you can't see. But both have to happen to actually have a vehicle.
Yeah, the casting's the skateboard.
That outer door could not be made out of that really super hard thing because they can't stamp that. Is that right? No.
I don't think that's completely correct. And I've looked at some of the manufacturers that make certain stamping machines, and depending on how they build them, they can actually do some of the stampings. At least they can maybe make part of the form and then finish them with other machines.
Because the aluminum just it's like a cookie cutter and it cuts it out and there's an extra. But maybe this stamping thing would be a slower process where it would just bend it into shape. It's already cut to shape.
I don't know. I know that they predominantly use a lot of pressure. It's not like speed of trying to cut the things, but it's a lot of pressure to form it. And I believe that that's what they're using some of the stamping machines for.
Joe, do you believe that the CyberTruck way the CyberTruck production line is going to be the new evolution of how Tesla produces vehicles? Or will they continue to produce vehicles like the Model Y and the Model 3 are?
I think it'll probably continue to evolve. One of the biggest differences between, like, say, the Model Y and the Cybertruck is that the Model Y has to go through a whole painting process and a whole undercoating process and corrosion control and all that stuff, and then assembly after that. Whereas in the Cybertruck, there's no paint, there's nothing involved. So the production line processes are greatly truncated. Now, can they scale that into other types of vehicles? Possibly, but if we're going to continue to have paint, then that may be a different, completely different process. But I think that the lessons that they're learning with the castings, getting them larger, different parts, maybe growing that, I think that's going to be a natural evolution.
Sure. Great.
Anybody have a guesstimate as to what weight the Cybertruck?
Question is, anyone have a guesstimate as to what weight the Cybertruck will be?
We're thinking 200 kilowatts.
The battery is going to be obviously the single heaviest part. This is just my guess. My guess is that the Cybertruck, when it's finished, will be less weight than the Rivian version, or certainly the Hummer.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot less weight than that.
I agree. I think they're going to surprise people with how light.
It'll be interesting to see how the exoskeleton and the castings come together to make a lighter structure. I don't think we're going to hear that today, as I think it's going to be broad themes, but it will be neat when we finally get some details on the Cybertruck, and it may surprise people, like you say, that it's so much lighter and also easier to build. Easier to build in the sense that it's a difficult vehicle to design and get to production, but once it is in production, I think it'll be easier to build than the traditional ways.
Well, speaking of Investor Day, what are you guys most looking forward to hopefully hearing about today?
I'm curious. I'm thinking they will build a second factory other than Giga, Texas right now. They got plenty of land for a second
You mean
factory.
here at this site?
Right. I've heard a while back that they were going to eventually build a Model 3, and like Shanghai, they first built the Model 3 factory, and then they built the Model Y factory, started maybe 2 months after they finished the 3. But I don't see that's not happening here, but it could happen in the future, I believe. Just from the sure fact that they have more than enough room for a second factory.
I think for me, everything I think it's going to be a big theme, and the biggest theme is the scale to large quantities of products. And to do that, they need to sustain it with the materials. And I'm kind of curious to find out what they plan on not only acquiring the materials, how are they going to refine it, how are they going to make it, how are they going to do that to be able to sustain millions and millions of products. And I would think that that's probably closest to what is going to be on the agenda today.
Hey Brad, I have a question about that place that organizes for the train tracks. What's that called?
It's what is it? RCR Taylor Logistics.
Google that?
Yeah, they have a website.
Did you have any thoughts, Brian?
I'll add in there, recycling, battery recycling. One thing that's kind of not talked about, but I think it's about time. If they're not gonna, when are they gonna unveil this? If they're not gonna unveil it for Master Plan Part 3, then when are they gonna do it? So I'll add battery recycling. They opened they're working on the lithium plant, in Corpus Christi. So it has to be the whole process. I would like to see something more with the production line in general. Like, how are they going to increase entire full body castings, maybe just increase production workflow, and how are they going to really double the speed of production on the floor?
Great. Oh, we have another question.
I'm not sure why they built it there, probably because it's located near Houston. Tesla's not the only company that's building
Battery storage.
grid still batteries up in Pflugerville, right across the field from Austin Executive Airport. They just installed 100 megawatts grid scale batteries there. There's 2 long lines of rows of batteries there. The only problem, I haven't been able to fly a drone because it's right next to the airport and you have 0 elevation that you can fly there. So I've tried spotting it from a point where I could go up 100 feet, but it's still too far. But I was able to get out there, drive up to the access road, and took snapped some pictures that way of it.
Yeah, I can't speak to that one particularly, but just as a reminder, here at Giga Texas, there's going to be a MegaPack built here as well. And it's going to be a pretty large one. And as far as supporting the grid, I think they're doing that not only for the factory, but specifically for grid support.
Yeah, Texas does have its only grid, or Texas has its own separate grid compared to the rest. So it could make sense in that way too.
You're gonna see another one, a large one built here pretty soon. They're getting close. The electrical switchyard is 90% completed, and they're already adding. There's 3 bays, if you will, on it. 2 of them are for the grid, to the transformers, to the factory. The 3rd bay is almost finished now, and it's going to support the connection to the MegaPack. And once this is done, we're going to start seeing that construction. I would say by summer By summer, we could see it being done. The real question is how many MegaPacks can they build and get them out here based on the demand that they have? I believe they will. In fact, Tesla has recently been certified as an energy producer for Texas. So.
Yeah, I looked into getting the Tesla energy packager program, and unfortunately, I'm right on the border where I guess I'm deregulated or regulated, so I couldn't get it. I'm only Georgetown Energy.
Any good stories about crashes, nigger collisions, lots of seagulls?
It's a big air. Space is big.
I will say that initially being, say, the first 6 to 8 months, there was more likelihood of having problems with drones either nearly hitting each other or getting in each other's way. And that happened to all of us, I think, at some point, despite trying to deconflict as much as we can with, Tesla had their own drone pilot. We had contractors that had drones. We had our own drones. The big issue was there was a lot of other people that just were coming by just to visit that would just pull out a drone and start flying.
Yes.
And that became an issue for a while, but that's mostly subsided. As far as losing drones, I don't want to jinx myself, but I have never lost a drone. But I know
I've never lost a drone ever, and I've been flying drones since, I can't even remember, since like the Phantom 2, and years, and fly almost every day. I've never crashed, never lost a drone.
You know people that have.
Oh yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
And a big thing is like, it's like buying a Tesla versus buying a Mach-E, maybe. When you buy something that has all the technology built to not crash, the DJI drones don't crash. And I like to use the DJI drones in a way of like FSD, where like they have full 360 cameras, they have obstacle avoidance, and it's not really going to happen.
Well, I think part of the issue, though, is having a good situational awareness of where you're flying, what are the conditions, what are the winds, what are the temperatures. Lower temperatures really affects battery life. It also, not just the battery and the drone, but also your controller and even, like I use an iPad to view. Your fingers can be bad too. But you add winds to cold and it really makes a big difference. So understanding where the wind's coming from, where is your battery power, where I'm going to fly. If I have a problem, where am I going to try to get back? A while back, one of the other Quad Squad guys had a problem because he was launching from the north. He flew all the way to the south, but the wind was coming from the north very strong, and he couldn't make it back, and he made a couple of cardinal sin errors. He flew higher, which is not good, and he was flying directly parallel with the wind trying to get back, and eventually it blew him over the Colorado River. The better thing to have done at that time is lower your altitude, turn perpendicular to kind of tack with the wind, and at least try to get to the edge of the highway where you can recover and then work your way. So understanding those things is important. And we have had I know the Quad Squad guys have crashed their drones, and Ellie was actually a witness of one of them last year.
When I was interviewing
Yes,
you
she
ahead
did.
of Cyber Rodeo.
Yes, and all of a sudden a drone came down and nearly hit us.
But it had a number and a name on it.
Yeah, it was Jeff
So,
Roberts.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to leave his name out of this.
But no, it was actually very interesting. But I don't know about you. What are you about, Brad?
Almost lost one. I think it was due to battery overheating and it popped out. But I was able to find, it took about 45 minutes. I knew where it came out at. I lucked out because it landed in a bunch of high weeds. So only had a cracked prop and that was it. But, I did run into a transmission line the other day too. The helicopter working on the transmission line, and I thought I wanted to stay away from it, so I decided to go underneath the lines, which I hardly ever do. And the shorter transmission line was a lot lower than I thought, and I ran right into it.
In the Air Force, we called those impartial training devices.
You learn quickly that the sensors on the drone do not see wires. But it didn't crash, but I had to replace another prop.
Well, I'm getting the signal that we should wrap up, but I want to say we're all appreciative of your hard work, and thank you for giving us some insight into the drone business.
Well, thank you, and thank everybody for watching. I think we all appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
There is pizza. There's more pizza. If you're hungry, let's not let it go to waste.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
So that was it. That was part 2 of our big day in Texas. We had so much fun. These people are so knowledgeable and just kind of fun to listen to. It feels like hanging out with old friends, even though I've only met them in person just a little bit. A couple times, I guess. What do we miss? What do we misunderstand? All that good stuff. Leave it in them comments, because I gotta know. And of course, big thanks to my patrons, without whom this trip could not have happened. This channel could not happen. So thank you guys for your support. It means the world to me. Your decision is great. And so, for the rest of you, subscribe and like and do all those usual things. Follow me on Twitter at 4K Podcast. And stay tuned, stay juicy. And I can't wait to hear from you clever robots at the next event. I'm going to be in Farnborough, England for Fully Charged at the end of April. If you're in England, you should definitely touch base. And if you're in Ireland, you should touch base, because I'm going there afterwards with my boys. So, yeah, let me know about that.